Eastern Michigan University has a long and glorious history, like any other higher learning institution. It was first known as Normal College. Since its creation in 1849, students have fought in every major American war, the first being the Civil War. The Civil War, also known as the War of the Rebellion, was fought to preserve the Union of America. 20 students from Normal College fought and died for the great country that we live in today. The only thing that remains of these brave young students who died in the war, just as they were coming into manhood, are the names engraved in stone along the northwest Pray-Herald wall. Some of these names are more prominent than others, one of them being Barry Sill, whose name you may have seen on the EMU-JMB Sill building. Sill was in the first graduation class at Normal College. He became a teacher and eventually became president of the university. The other 20 students who died in the War of the Rebellion have their names engraved on a stone tablet at the northwest corner of the Pray-Herald building. This tablet serves as a memorial to these students, or should I say soldiers, and this is where the story begins. On July 1, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln gave the order for 30,000 more men to help in the fight against the rebellion. Soon after, the governor of Michigan gave the call to form 7 regiments of infantry and 4 of cavalry. That year, the summer semester at Normal College would not let out until the 18th of July. The campus was abuzz with the war brewing to the south. It was at this time the idea of forming a company of normal students came about. On July 15th, just 3 days before the summer semester was due to end, the State Board of Education passed the following declaration to the students. Resolved that leave of absence be given to any member of the institution who may wish to enlist in the military service of his country in the present war for the preservation of the Union. But since it came on the heels of the end of the semester, most students dispersed and went home. It was at this time that Austin George took charge and formed the Normal Company. He put out the recruitment flag and turned Kane and Smith's bookstore on the north side of Congress Street, which is now Michigan Ave, into the recruiting office. One of the first things that Austin George did after opening the recruitment office was to send out recruitment letters to all the men of Normal College of fighting age. Responses came quickly, in person, writes Austin in the history of the Michigan Normal College. David S. Howard of Pontiac was the first. James T. Morgan was second, while Matthews, Safford, Billings, and others came in rapid succession. The company was soon full and ready to go. While it was just normal students at first, it soon became comprised of 2 other groups. The first was made up of men from Jackson County. They were recruited by normal student James T. Morgan, and the other by Captain Gabriel Campbell, who was a graduate of Normal College. There were also several normal students who recruited their brothers. Though this company of men was not completely made up of normal students, 1/3 of the privates, 4 of the 8 corporals, 4 of the 5 sergeants, and all 3 commission officers were students or graduates of Normal College. It was assumed that Professor Sill would take command of the company since it would be comprised of normal students, but he decided, because it was, that a student should lead the company. He raised the funds to buy the student commander sword, belt, and sash. This gift to the commander, along with other gifts for the men, were presented by the ladies of Ypsilanti during a speech at Town Hall. The next day, they marched to Detroit, where they were assigned to Company E. They would then head to Washington and go off to battle. Some of these troops would die in battle and be laid to rest there on the battlefield, while others would make it home, some with the physical scars of battle and others mental scars. It was a little over 2 weeks after leaving Michigan before the Normal boys had their first trial of combat. This took place at the Battle of South Mountain in Maryland on September 14, 1862. The regiment made a charge against some rebels that were posted behind a stone wall. This charge was successful, and they defeated the rebels at the mountain, and afterwards they were coined the Stonewall Regiment. In this first battle, 4 Normal boys had fallen. one of them being Alexander McKinnon, the youngest of the Normal boys, no older than 17 when he died. While he was not able to enlist, he followed the Normal Company, eventually befriending William Burleigh. Burleigh recounts his time with McKinnon in a letter to Austin George.
We walked and talked and slept together on the way all along from Washington to South Mountain. He said that he didn't expect to live, but that he thought it was his duty to give his life to his country. My eyes fill with tears as I think of it. No loftier of purer life went out that day on that slope of South Mountain than that dear McKinnon. His name and memory cannot be too highly honored by the Normal of today.
It was a little over 2 weeks after leaving Michigan before the Normal boys had their first trial of combat. This took place at the Battle of South Mountain in Maryland on September 14, 1862. The regiment made a charge against some rebels that were posted behind a stone wall. This charge was successful, and they defeated the rebels at the mountain, and afterwards they were coined the Stonewall Regiment. In this first battle, 4 Normal boys had fallen, one of them being Alexander McKinnon, the youngest of the Normal boys, no older than 17 when he died. While he was not able to enlist, he followed the Normal Company, eventually befriending William Burleigh. Burleigh recounts his time with McKinnon in a letter to Austin George.
We walked and talked and slept together on the way all along from Washington to South Mountain. He said that he didn't expect to live, but that he thought it was his duty to give his life to his country. My eyes fill with tears as I think of it. No loftier of purer life went out that day on that slope of South Mountain than that dear McKinnon. His name and memory cannot be too highly honored by the Normal of today.
The battle raged on, and so did the Normal boys. Their next skirmish was at Antietam on September 17, 1862. This battle killed 4 more from Company E, 2 of whom were Normal students. The eldest of the Webb brothers, Frederick S. Webb, and the youngest brother of the Hyatts, Edward, were both mortally wounded. As Frederick Webb lay on his deathbed, he wrote about Normal College.
Ho, Uncle Sam's servants, take Mercury's wings, and point your proboscis at Oxygen's gates. Then follow your nose till it finally brings your worship to Michigan, Queen of the States. Then find Ypsilanti, that beautiful spot where Michigan kneels at the fountain of lore. My loved Normal halls, 'neath heaven's blue dome, no place I hold dear, no spot still brings such tender reflections on memory's wing. Within those dear halls, pre-adventures are some. Who remembered last summer, how loud was the hum of excitement that constantly greeted our ears as election drew on with its hopes and its fears. And when the result was announced from the chair, the Philistine party of the laurels should wear. Of public opinion, by that great election, that too without merit, whereby direction of popular favor on me should be turned. Your votes, my dear friends, were unsought and unearned. I wish I could tell you how deep are the thanks I feel in my heart for all classes and ranks. Oh dear Normal students, but cannot so please imagine their depth and thus put me at ease. I would further report, now the book have I dusted, of all that big crib full to me that you trusted. You know there was excitement and war in the land, and the students rose up and went forth in a band. My spirit for war was too strong to resist, so I threw down my books and ran off to enlist. If book ever looks, at least I swear that I have never touched one. I'd soon have handled my American gun. And now, Mr. President, one matter more. My thanks and respect I have mentioned before. I'm away off in Washington, far from the spot whence memory brings me such treasure of thought.
We went to the Highland Cemetery, where Austin George and others from Company E have been laid to rest. The ladies of Ypsilanti gathered the funds to put a memorial in Highland Cemetery for the soldiers who had fallen in the battlefield and were buried there. Here is the final resting place of Austin George and the other men from Company E. The battles of the Civil War raged on for another 3 years before the Normal Boys were able to return home to Michigan. As we all know, the North was victorious, and the Normal Boys helped shape the America we live in today.